Hey guys.
Hi Dale.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
What are you drinking today?
The huge.
Oh, dark and black with the fruit chaser.
So, how are you guys doing?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
How are you?
Well, thank you for asking, Sean. I've been thinking a lot about life lately. You know, just last Sunday I talked a little bit about worry, and when I think about worry and life itself, I think, there's a lot to worry about, and sometimes I worry about things like the weather, sometimes I worry about people in my life, sometimes I worry about my grandkids, but life can be really good, and then sometimes it can be not so good, and I found that if you worry too much, it's probably really not going to help, and it's really not worth it. So, when you think about life, guys, I think it's a lot like my cup of coffee and my chaser. Sometimes life is, black and dark, but we can always count on the sweet love and grace of Jesus.
Welcome everybody to Happy Hour with Pastor Dale, tackling tough topics with uplifting love and grace. I am so grateful that you are here, those of you who are here in person, those of you who are watching online or will be in the future days or weeks. We are so grateful to have you join us and excited about this. So this is a once a month thing we've been doing, and it happens on the first Tuesday of every month. And we've had a variety of different kinds of topics each month. But today, since it's July 5th, we decided that we would do something a little bit different that certainly communicates to our Lighthouse family, or much of our Lighthouse family. We decided to do a recovery special. And so I have invited two good friends of mine, people who come to Lighthouse Church, but also people who I have known in my own journey in recovery, and who have been really helpful for me as I have kind of moved forward through my own recovery from alcoholism. So I want to welcome Jan and Roy, and let you know that they have lots of experience and wisdom in this whole recovery thing. Combined, they're at about 86 plus years of recovery. And if I remember correctly, it's pretty awesome. So if I remember correctly, it's 42 plus years and 44 plus years. Yeah. So congratulations and welcome. So you can tell I am still, my voice is still getting over a cold. So excuse my voice, but you're not here to listen to me very much anyway. So thank you for joining us today, and we're going to have a little conversation about recovery from substance use addictions and alcoholism in particular today. I'll just mention that. And I want you to know that one of the goals, I think, of the Happy Hour with Pastor Dale and doing a topic like this is that we would like to contribute to breaking the stigma there is about the disease of addiction. And there are a lot of people who struggle with addiction issues in our community, in our world, and we want them to know that not only is it understandable that people struggle with things that are more powerful than they are, but that there is help available for them. And it's in many ways what Lighthouse Church is all about and recovery programs are all about. So thank you for joining us. And one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to have a little bit of this conversation with the understanding that I'm going to speak as somebody new in recovery. And compared to you, I kind of am. But I was thinking this week how incredible it would have been to be able to have had a conversation with people with your experience when I was just starting out. So I'm going to start by just simply asking you to share a little bit of your story and how it is that you've kind of come to the place that you're at. So we'll go ladies first.
Thank you. Well, I grew up in a home where I saw firsthand the effects of living with people who drank too much. Both my father and my grandfather had a drinking problem, and I was determined I was never going to be like that. And however, as I got older and I found out the effects of alcohol, it was kind of like, oh, that was the magic thing that made me feel better about myself. And so that's why I continued to drink. And how I got into recovery was through a program for families of people who drank too much, and I got introduced to. I started controlling my drinking a lot, and then got real depressed and was asked perhaps that maybe I was too alcoholic, and it was suggested that maybe I try the other program that dealt with recovering from alcoholism, and I'm glad to say that it worked for me, because when I quit drinking, my next step was going to be suicide if I didn't find a solution, because I'd gone to doctors, I'd gone through psychiatrists, I'd done all that type of thing, and nothing else worked. And I had tried religion and all of that, none of that stuff had worked for me. So that's how I got into recovery.
One of the things I often say is that so much of the danger of alcohol is that it works for those things at first. You know, it can take away some anxiety. It can make us feel more social. It can help us escape for a while. But when we're using it for those purposes, it becomes very dangerous and can lead us to a bad place.
Yes. And it quit working for me.
And it quit working.
Which was terrifying.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Roy, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, well, a little bit about myself. First of all, I'm an old guy. I found that out today. I was talking with someone yesterday, and, you know, when I first moved here to this area, I started selling cars, and that was back in 1972, and that was 50 years ago. And time goes by so fast.
Yeah.
It really does. And I grew up in a small town in Minnesota. I say I grew up. I got older. I still haven't grown up. So, when I moved up here, like I say, I started selling cars, and I did that for 3.5 years, and then I got into the corporate world and in the auto glass business, and I was in that for 30 plus years, and then I retired. I thought. I got bored with retirement, and then I started driving the school bus part-time. So I still wanted to do a little bit more, so I got into life coaching, and I've been doing that for about 6 years. Now, I live in Fargo with my little baby dog, Duke. So, anyway, my recovery, I used to drink. And I went to treatment. The first time was in October 12th of 1970. Now, that's getting to be a long time ago. So I've got quite a story, quite a journey to talk about. And then I found recovery. And then I found God after I found recovery. And since that, everything has been just wonderful. So anyway, my journey, like I say, has been a long one, but to sum it up, to make a long story short, I had a year of sobriety, and I went back out again. And after that, I got divorced and wound up back in recovery. And the lawyer I went to became my sponsor. So I then had 4.5 years in the program. And after 4 years, I quit going to the meetings. And that seemed to be my downfall, because after I made it 4.5 years, I went out and experimented again. I thought, well, my thought was I was 24 when I came into this thing, and I was too young, and I had it figured out, and I should be able to control this stuff. And so I went back out and tried it again. And now, like Dale mentioned, I have 44 years. So there's been lots of ups and downs, but I'm now happy, joyous, and free.
Yeah. So one of the things that I find in my own recovery journey is I'm kind of envious of people who kind of get this when they're really young. So when you started into your recovery journey, what struck you about the community and the people that you encountered early on back then?
What struck me was when I went to my first closed meeting, that I had the same feeling there that I did when I drank, a feeling of belonging, a feeling of that I was home. Because these people knew, how they were talking was how I felt. When either with what drinking did to me, or how they felt when they weren't drinking. And I could relate to that. And then also, the fun that people were having. I wasn't having any fun. And they were this community of people that were laughing and were doing things. And I was fortunate because right away I got in with a group of people that did a lot of things together. And that to me is one thing that attracted me. Plus, I met other people that had been in the program. 5 years was a long time, because I couldn't make it a week, if that. And so I met those people that were, they had lives. They were, not only the material things, but they had been at jobs for, a long time. They had been in relationships for a long time. And I didn't have any of that in my life.
That's very good. So you saw right from the beginning almost something in others that you wanted for yourself. Right. Was that true with you too, Roy?
That was true with me also. I saw that right away when I was in treatment. We used to, we were encouraged to go to a meeting every day, and they would invite people in from other treatment centers or other recovery groups or whatever to speak. And I could hear, when I heard those people talk, I thought, I've done that stuff. I can relate to that, and I really enjoyed listening to them, and I learned a lot in treatment.
So when they took you to treatment or to recovery groups at that time, was it in a horse and buggy, or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was
okay.
Basically, that's
in
what
the winter, it was dog sled.
I had to at least have one old-timers joke. Come on. Dog sleds in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've resisted from saying that you sobered up before I was even born. Because that's not true.
Yeah, no, okay.
Although close in your instance. Okay, so Roy, you've already alluded to this.
We know how old you are. It's not that close.
You've already alluded to this, Roy. But one of the things that I just kind of want to ask is, okay, so you sobered up over 44 years ago, your last drink, 42 years ago, Jan, and the assumption would be that everything has been perfect since then. No problems, no issues, and it's just been easy riding. Has that been the case for you?
No.
You want to say something about that, Jen?
No.
What have been some of the difficult times that you've been through?
Well, life goes on. I've had, my sister took her own life in 2008. My parents both have died. I was divorced in sobriety. I think though the most difficult time was about a 3 to 4 year stretch where I was guardian and conservator for my parents. It was hard at that point because my parents were sick and there was a lot of legal stuff to do, and there'd be times during that time when I would keep thinking, I just want this to end. When will this be over? But then I would feel guilty because I knew it wouldn't be over until they died. I really had to stay close to the program at that time, close to God as I understand Him, who today and then was also Jesus Christ, and close to my church, close to my support group. I really had to stay in the day as much as I could.
So you used the program to help get you through those times?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you encounter people who come into the program thinking once they stop drinking or using, everything's going to be great?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I just tell them to keep coming back.
Yeah, it'll work. Roy, how about you?
Well, like I said, been through a lot of ups and downs, but there's one thing that stands out in my recovery, and that was after I came back after 4.5 years. And so I came home I traveled a lot, and I came home off the road, and my thought was that, I can't drink, and I can't stay sober, so I don't want to live. So I went in the garage that particular night, and I blocked the door, and I started the car up, and I thought, well, I'm going to do away with myself. And I kept thinking, as I'm doing that, my sponsor at that time said that sober suicides always work, it seems like. Drunk suicides never work, he said. And that kept going around in my mind. And my wife was on the phone with my sponsor at that time, and I didn't realize that. And he was telling her that, well, if he does that, that you're going to have to go down and find him in the garage, and the police are going to come. You're going to have to explain all that. Well, I didn't know that she was talking to him until the next day when I talked to him. But this is what he was telling her. Well, then my thought was at the last minute, I was getting dizzy and whatever, and so I thought, she's going to come down here and find me dead on the floor and whatever, and I'm not going to be able to see how she reacts. So I threw open the door and let the air come in again, and that's the thoughts that run around in an alcoholic's mind. We really get into the poor me's in situations like that. And I wound up talking to my sponsor the next day, and he asked me, I started telling him my tale of woe and all the reasons why and all this stuff, and he said, do you want to get well or don't you? And I just looked at him, and I said, well, yeah, I guess I do. And he said, well, then you need to start to listen and start doing some of the things that we do and follow the successful in this program and work the steps and do that stuff and listen. And so he recommended some things to me, and one of the things he recommended was to go to a roundup, and I went to that, and on the way there I had a spiritual awakening. It was about 100 miles west of here at Jamestown, and we were on the way to that roundup, and that was 750 miles we drove up to Prince Albert, Saskatchewan that night. But after I had that spiritual awakening, I haven't had a craving for alcohol since. So it's been really it's been good. It's been really good for me. Yeah.
I want to say that I appreciate both of your willingness to talk about being at a point where you've wondered about ending your life. I find that's really common amongst those who have struggled with or are struggling with addiction. And one of the things that I hope that we can convey today is not only is recovery possible, but it can be good. And, life is worth living, especially as, we begin to grow spiritually. So want to ask as well then, you've been at this for a long time. How has your program changed or evolved over these 40 plus years? What do you do now that might be different than back then, or is it a lot the same?
Well, I still go to meetings. I don't go to as many as I did in the beginning, but I still go to meetings. It's still a top priority in my life. And I still talk to my sponsor. And today, though, my higher power, when I first came into the program, I didn't know who or what God was. It was like, because I felt really rejected by the church I'd grown up in. And so I was kind of, for a long time, wandering kind of aimlessly around, looking to see find out who the higher power was that I understood him, my higher power to be. And it wasn't until I was like 18 years sober, till I came back to knowing Jesus Christ as my higher power. That was probably been the most significant thing that happened. Because until then, I was staying sober and I believed in God, but I didn't have a personal relationship. And that for me has been really the crux and the key for, making it through those tough times. I'm not saying people can't just stay sober on the program, because I know people that do. But for me, I don't think I could have. I could probably have stayed sober, but I was also pretty depressed.
Yeah, and there's a difference between sobriety and recovery as well.
Right.
Might be able to stay sober, but growing spiritually is a different dynamic. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and being an active part of a church has been a big deal for me too.
Cool. Roy?
Well, for me, it came from not knowing anything about alcoholism, what it was, to being involved in a life-changing program now today. And I go to 3 to 4 meetings a week, and I work with others a lot. And I found that really has helped me. It probably helps me as much or more than it does them. And living one day at a time now. So, yeah.
So we're coming right out of the 4th of July holiday, and I've learned in my own journey that there are certain times, certain holidays that I need to kind of be conscious of in my recovery. Has that been the case for you? Have you had to, was the 4th of July ever a difficulty, or were there other times of the year that you were more intentional about your recovery than others?
Yeah, I think for me, the 4th of July, I guess, was always kind of a family time. Most of the holidays were. So, and I didn't drink around my family. Other members took care of that. Mm-hmm. And plus I didn't want them to know I might have a problem. So, even though they probably knew anyway. But anyway, so that wasn't such a big deal, but I think other holidays could be a trigger, especially if I'm feeling lonely and, maybe there's not much going on. At that time, I think that could definitely be a trigger.
Roy, how about you?
Well, I think the holidays are always tough for me. And leading up to the holidays, planning on if I had enough chemical, around to take me through the holiday. And then there was a period afterwards when everybody went home, all the company left, that I'd go through a time of loneliness. And that would lead me back to more drinking again. So the holidays were always a little tough for me.
Yeah. So we're going to come to maybe a word to people who might be struggling right now in a little bit. But my favorite question that I prepared for you is, what do you know now that you wish you had known then?
I wish I had known that just because I want to drink or I think about it doesn't mean I'm not working my program. Because the fact that you're not drinking and the fact that you're making other choices is working your program. I mean, there's probably always going to be this part of the committee in the back of my head saying, oh, a drink's going to make this better. I don't have the obsession and the cravings like I used to, but that doesn't mean, just because I may think about it, or I may see an advertisement that looks it doesn't mean that I'm not working a program. And also, I wish that I would have known that, life can be hard. And not everything is easy once you come in here. It's a lot better, but, I still have to face reality. I still have to face life. And, but the program can help with every single situation.
Yeah.
And of course, trusting God.
Roy, what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
A couple things stand out that's a good question. I wish that I would have known that there was really a God, a loving God that cared and loved me and cared about me. Then, I wish I knew that then, what I know now. And it comes about, the second thing is that I'm so glad that I have so many friends now in the program. I didn't think that was possible. I thought that was a dream. But I've got like 31 names in my phone that I text good morning to every morning now. And somebody asked me if that was, do you do that as a group text? I said, no, I do it one at a time. It takes me about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And then I do my meditation. But, and then all these people text me back. And it's such a fulfilling feeling, just a loving feeling of admiration when those texts come back. You can't put a price on that. So that's what I know.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's excellent. So tell us about, you already alluded to a spiritual awakening, Roy. So why don't we start with you? Is there anything more about that kind of spiritual awakening or even just your spiritual journey that you would like to share with people today?
Well, my spiritual awakening, it's talked about in several different ways about the burning bush or the, lights coming on, all of that. And it wasn't that way for me. It was like there was something that was lifted from me, and there was a peace, a sort of peace that came about. And I lost the craving for alcohol, but it didn't take away the situations that come about during life, because life happens every day. And I've learned that God is there to guide me now. That's one thing. And I always believed in a higher power. But I grew up in a home where there wasn't any religion, no church going or anything. But I always thought there's something about that. And I was drawn to the Bible, and I'd read in the Bible some and try to understand that or whatever. And I knew that there was this higher power out there, and I found out it was God. And I found that out in this program. And I know that He guides me today, everything that I do. So if I run up against a wall with whatever it is, I know He's right here beside me, and I can consult, and I can talk to Him like a friend. And the first thing that I get reminded of is to call somebody in the program. Call my sponsor. Call somebody that understands this stuff and can relate to it. And so that's my spiritual journey.
How about you, Jan?
What was the question?
Did you have a spiritual awakening or your spiritual journey? Can you say a little bit more about it?
Yeah, my spiritual awakening was kind of what I alluded to earlier. The biggest part was, realizing that Jesus Christ was who He said He was.
How did that come about?
Well, it came about because through those years when I was running from Him, I had prayed, if you are who you say you are, please let me know. And I had some friends that were going to, came to believe in Jesus, and they weren't in the program, but they were kept asking me to go with them to church. And I just kind of went, okay, just leave me alone. And finally one Sunday, just to get them off my back, I said I'd go. And fortunately, they were going to a church that is a Bible-believing church. It could have been, something else that maybe wouldn't have been so true. But when I went there, I knew I was home. I knew I was where I was supposed to be. And I knew that Jesus was who he said he was.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think sometimes we think that the timing is supposed to be on our end, and sometimes it's God's timing. Go figure, God knows better than we do sometimes when we're really ready to hear him or let him in or, go to a new step. So,
and that certainly doesn't mean that everybody that walks into the program needs to believe that. I'm not saying that. Because I think if I would have heard that when I came in, I probably would have turned around and walked out.
Yeah.
I'm not, but for me, that's been my journey.
Yeah. Can I share a word about that too?
Sure.
So I was in a similar place, as you know. I was a pastor before I started going to recovery meetings, but I was very spiritually dead, and I knew Jesus, but I wasn't really on good terms, and I really didn't go to AA, which is where I went, to recovery programs to teach me about Jesus. I went there to get some help. And I found when I got there that there was a spiritual dynamic that caught me off guard, but that I was able to kind of navigate that spirituality myself. And that was very comforting for me in that time. And so, one of the reasons we have places like Lighthouse is for those people who maybe want to learn more about Jesus. There are opportunities and places that understand recovery as well as faith in Jesus. So thank you for sharing that. Let's just say or ask how you came to Lighthouse and how your faith journey, since we're on that topic, how has it evolved since you've been here? And maybe as a word of encouragement to either people here who are checking this out or people who might watch online, do I go to a church? What do I look for in a church? Has it really made a difference in your life? So who'd like to go first?
Go ahead.
Well, every one of these questions has a long story behind that goes with it. But what happened with me is I found Lighthouse. I was leaving a recovery meeting on Saturday morning, and I was going home to do a podcast because I do those once in a while. And I was all prepared to do that, and I pulled out onto University and turned my left signal light on and started to turn, and this little message that God I listen to this small voice now, and it says, go to the clubhouse. So I wondered why do you want me to go to the clubhouse? And I kept turning and came back again, go to the clubhouse. So I turned my signal light the other way and I went to the clubhouse. Well, when I got there, I started talking to someone that has been around for quite some time. And I said, well, what do you got planned for the weekend? And this person said, well, one of the things I'm going to do is go to church. And I said, well, what church do you go to? And he told me the Lighthouse. And, I had a talk with God some time back, and I went to a few churches, but it always left me wanting, So I said, what I'm looking for is a custom-designed church. And so this person told me about the Lighthouse, and that told me about Pastor Dale, and that he was in our program and all that. And I thought, there's that custom-designed church that I've been looking for. So I listened and I came. And I'm so glad that I did, because I found everything that I wanted here. I found it here. And I would encourage anyone that's out there, if you're in recovery or not, that this would be the place to come, because Pastor Dale has a way of bringing Scripture into today that we can that I can understand it, you know. And that's what I always ran into before. So I think it's really a good place.
Thank you, Roy. That wasn't what I was asking for, but I appreciate the vote of confidence. That's nice. No, that's a great story. It's funny how God kind of works. So you want to share how you came here?
Sure.
Or a little bit more about your church journey?
Sure. Well, I had, like I said, the first church that I went to with my friends was a Bible-believing church, and I was a part of that for quite a few years. I'm pretty active in that. And then I went to another church, and another Bible-believing church, and in the meantime, in there somewhere, I met Dale at meetings, and then he called me. You called me about CR.
Oh, Celebrate Recovery,
yeah,
sure.
Celebrate Recovery, because we had talked about it previously, and when they started it here, Dale called and said, we're going to do this. Why don't you come and check it out? So I came to CR, and I started coming to that, and I was still going to my other church, but feeling kind of conflicted between, I really like Lighthouse, but I really like this church. And so finally, at one point, I just said, okay, I'm going to go to Lighthouse for 3 months. I think you were doing a series of some kind that I was going to come. And it's just like, God, just let me know what you want me to do. And I came, and it really felt that God was saying that this needs to be my church. And when I left the other church, it was really kind of cool because, I let them know why I was leaving, and they just wished me the best and prayed with me, and it was really neat. So, but here I can be open about my recovery. I can be open about who I am. I can be open about the struggles that I have in life, where I haven't necessarily found that in other churches. Not that they're not good people there. I don't want to give that implication at all. But this has been the most transparent church. And it starts with you. Because it starts, I think with the pastors on down. And so if you're not sure, if you're looking for something else maybe to add to your recovery journey, or just looking for recovery, it doesn't have to be from alcoholism. It can be from any life issues, and check it out.
Yeah, we say all the time that people are recovering from something most of the time in their life.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I just it's my church home, definitely.
It's been a joy to watch people whose recovery journeys have been helpful in my own recovery journey come and grow spiritually. And so it's just been a joy to have both of you as part of our church family. For those who don't know, I met Jan at my very first recovery meeting. And one of the things that I always appreciate about people in recovery is when they share, and you can't tell if they have been sober or clean for 6 months or 6 years or 26 years or 42 years. And when I found out how long Jan had been sober, I almost fell off my chair. Like, you had a way of still understanding, the life struggles that we go through. So it's been a fun journey with you. I appreciate it.
Fun watching you too.
So I'm going to give you a chance to speak to anybody here or out there who is struggling today. Maybe this weekend was tough. They might be in a place like you were at one time of giving up hope. And I just want to give you a chance to speak a word of encouragement to anybody who's listening today. Who wants to go first?
I can do that.
All right.
Okay. I would just say keep coming back. I know we hear that all the time at meetings, but it's really true. Because if you don't keep coming back, for me, I wouldn't have been able to stay sober and find people that you can talk to. work the steps. That fourth and fifth steps, I mean, and they're all important, but I really felt that if I wouldn't have done that, if I wouldn't have gotten those ghosts out, if I wouldn't have gotten that stuff out, it would have been really difficult, if not impossible, to stay sober.
Thank you, Jan.
Well, Pastor Dale, that word struggle is a broad word. And for the addicted person, whether you're dealing with it one day, first month, first year, 5 to 10 years, it doesn't make any difference. I would encourage anyone that is going through a struggle to call someone that's in recovery and talk to that person and find out where to go, what to do. You know, there's a lot of treatment places in Fargo, in the Fargo-Moorhead area, and there's a lot of places to go for recovery. And it's a better life. Once you get sober, it does get better. So I would encourage anyone to talk to someone. That's the main thing, I would guess. Yeah.
So thank you, both of you. And we're going to have a little time. We're going to do this where you can ask a question or make a comment. If anybody here wants to make a comment about any of the things that we've discussed, you're welcome to. Kirk is going to run a mic. If you're watching online, you can write a comment or a question in. And we'll just take a few minutes to see if anybody wants to ask a question or make a comment before we close. Why don't you stand up and identify yourself? And
Hi, Lighthouse family. I'm Louisa, and so at times in my recovery, I have found that I felt distant from God, and I know that's a huge part to recovery. I guess my question is, what word of encouragement do you have to those who feel like God is distant from them?
What I say to that is that my feelings are fickle, and I can't judge God's. God is more faithful than my feelings. For me, my faith in God has to be based on His Word and the promises in the Word, not my feelings.
wow, that was a good answer. Holy cow. Excellent. Thank you, Louisa. Anybody else, a question or a comment?
I'm Brian. I'm an alcoholic. And, I've been involved with other churches. I love the Lighthouse Church. Like Jan was talking about, you can be honest and open. I could have never said that in my church I was going to before without being judged. And here, I just feel like we're all just like going to kind of like an AA meeting. You get that same warm feeling in the spirituality here. And I really want to thank all three of you for that meeting tonight. It's been great. It's just fun hearing some of the reinforcement things that I need to hear and review on a daily basis. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks,
Brian. Anybody else comment or question?
Hi, my name is Susan. This weekend, I was at a AA meeting in a different city, and the topic was independence. And I would love to know from both of you, what do you feel you are independent from now compared to before you were drinking?
I feel I'm independent from the slavery of alcoholism. I don't have to drink today.
Yeah, I feel that same way. I don't have the need to use the alcohol anymore, and like I said in the beginning, I'm happy, joyous, and free, so I'm independent from that now. So.
Do you have something that you feel you're independent from that you want to share? No? I would add other things to that. You didn't ask me, but you know, I often give advice that's unsolicited. A lot of this comes from my recovery. I don't feel like I need to please people as much as I used to. I feel like I've also been able to find a healthier approach to not owning other people's problems. I've only been to one Al-Anon meeting, and I can say those things. So, I think that there are other things that I would say I've grown in independence from that are very recovery focused. So that was a great question. Great topic, I bet. Okay, I think there's somebody online. Do you have a microphone back there?
I do.
Awesome.
We've actually got 2 questions from Facebook. So the first one is, how do you deal with forgiveness and letting the past go? For example, like if you deal with PTSD or OCD, when that deals with an addiction.
We get that.
For me, I've had to use the steps. I just went through this with an issue for kind of some PTSD things. And I found doing the 4th and 5th step and then talking to, with my sponsor and writing things out and giving everything, getting it out and giving it to God has really helped.
Yeah, that's a tough question. Has it gotten better?
Yes.
Or did it just go away once you did that?
It's gotten better, and I have to be mindful that it's not the truth anymore.
Yeah. My experience is that it becomes a process of working through it. So great question. And another one?
Yes, and then one more from Facebook. When did sobriety feel like an everyday normal?
I would think that it happened after my spiritual awakening. Before that, I was just going through the motions, going to the meetings, wanting to fit in, saying the things that I thought needed to be said or whatever. But now it's become a natural thing every day. But I would guess that, or not guess, I know that it was because of my spiritual awakening and belief in God. So.
Jan?
I can't really pinpoint an exact time, but it came from after a few years in the program of, that this is my life. And also realizing that there's nothing today that drinking is going to make any better.
All right. So I think we will wrap up there. I want to thank both of you for your sharing with us, for your presence in this recovery faith community, and for your courage to kind of help break the stigma. So thank you, Jan. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dad.
I want to share with you that our next happy hour is going to be on August 2nd, and it's the first Tuesday of next month, and our guest is going to be Dan Borsheim. Dan was the founder of Valley Christian Counseling. He's a pastor as well, and he is going to be here to talk about kind of everyday self-care for mental health issues. And we're going to talk a little bit about when is it that somebody might go to a counselor, and how do we recognize some of the things going on in us. So that'll be next month. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. God bless everybody, and we're so grateful that you joined us.